Hi, welcome back to Through the Bible Women's Bible Study. We're going to pick up in Genesis 42. So at this point, there is a famine in all the land, so in the known world. And Joseph, through his wisdom, has stored up grain in preparation for this. Plus, he's making money for the Pharaoh at the same time. So let's get started in chapter 42, verse 1 through 4. When Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. So based on Genesis chapter 45:11, it looks like this happened in the first year of the famine. So it didn't take long for the big problems of the world to find their way home to Jacob. It was a family problem for Jacob. When Jacob mentioned Egypt, did he see a strange expression on his sons? This is probably because the brothers knew Joseph had likely been sold as a slave there. Their conscience was twanged every time Egypt was mentioned. They'd lived with this terrible secret for 20 years. We don't know if they ever talked about it, but it never left them. So any mention of Joseph or Egypt brought back that guilt. They needed to be set free from the power of their terrible secret. Because Jacob lost Joseph, he lived in constant fear of also losing Benjamin, the other son of his favorite wife Rachel. So he kept a close, protective eye on Benjamin. The word used for harm here, it's rare and it implies a life-threatening accident. Jacob is afraid the only remaining son of Rachel would die. So Benjamin is left behind. If Jacob only knew the reason there was grain in Egypt is because God sent Joseph ahead of them all. God knew what he was doing. Famine is never a good thing, but God used it. God can and does use material need, nature, the lack in our life to get us to do things normally we wouldn't even think of doing. Normally the brothers would go nowhere near Egypt, but God needed them there. Verse 5 and 6. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. You notice they remind us that Joseph was the governor. The 11 brothers know that their very survival depends on this Egyptian official, so they humble themselves to them. This is the realization of Joseph's dream about the grain. Verse 7 and 8. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Why not? Well, one, they believed Joseph was probably dead. Joseph also had no beard, and Hebrews had beard. Joseph was likely speaking Egyptian and using a translator. He's wearing Egyptian clothes, he looks like Egyptian, he has an Egyptian name. They are not ready to recognize their brother, and it had been a long time. He's not ready to reveal who he is. So here's another picture of Jesus and Joseph. Jesus sees who we are long before we see who he is. He recognizes us. And what's amazing, he still loves us. Verse 9 through 17. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them. And he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord. Your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." He said to them, "No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see." And they said, We your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you shall be tested by the life of Pharaoh. You shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in them, or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. Some commentators feel that if it were left up to Joseph, he would have revealed himself to his brothers that day, right then and there. But that God brought Joseph dreams about his brothers to mind, and God wanted to use these for correction and restoration of the brothers. God can, and sometimes he must, use ways we think are so too harsh to call us where to go and where he wants us to be. When Joseph accuses them of spying several times, the statement about being sons of one father was important, because it would be absolutely insane to send a whole group of spies from one family. Too risky. Now, Joseph knew his brothers weren't spies, but other countries did send spies. Egypt probably sent spies other places. There were lots of wars going on during this time. They say they're honest men. That's a laugh. Honesty has not been one of their noticeable virtues. They deceived and killed the Shechemites. They deceived their father with Joseph's blood-stained coat. Judah had deceived Tamar. The rabbinical midrash says that Jacob told his sons to enter the city by different gates, and that Joseph saw this and used it to accuse them of being spies. Again, that is not in Scripture. Verse 13, they say one is no more. That's a lie, and the brothers know it. They had every reason to believe that Joseph wasn't dead, but that he was condemned to a life of slavery. Maybe they repeated this lie so much to themselves that they actually came to believe it. After all, slaves often die. So, Joseph's reaction, he throws them together in prison. At least they're in a group. When Joseph was in prison, he was alone. Notice he says, by the life of Pharaoh. Joseph is often criticized for saying this twice. He's saying in a different way by the name of Pharaoh the God. He's swearing on Pharaoh. But it fits his disguise. He wouldn't say, by God, I swear on God. That would give him away. So it's in reference to the Egyptian tradition that Pharaoh was the son of the sun god Ra. Verse 18 and 9. Sorry, my nose itches so much. Verse 18 through 20. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined, while you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. So 3 days in an Egyptian prison gets the brothers to agree to whatever Joseph wants them to do. They'd been humbled, and they would listen to Joseph's demands. Now, remember, Hebrew days mean any hour of the day is included. That's the day, a day. So this time meant 2 nights and a day, and whatever little time on either end. So it must have really surprised them to hear an Egyptian say he feared God, and God here is Elohim. None of the brothers had mentioned God. So the Egyptian does. Joseph's demand was clear. They had to prove they were not spies by proving they were honest and that they told the truth about the brother back home. Of course, Joseph wants to see his only full brother. Joseph had changed his plan, his demands since the last time he talked to his brothers. Then he had said only one should return to Canaan. Now he says 9 of you get to go back, 1 stays behind. So why did he change his mind? Well, he's going to send grain with him, and one man isn't enough to carry it back. Also, Jacob would be more prone to sending Benjamin if 9 brothers were there trying to persuade him. If only 1 came and 9 stayed, Joseph might think he lost 9 sons. That would be a huge shock, and Joseph didn't want to shock his father. So the brothers reluctantly agreed to this, but they believed whoever stayed was going to die in that prison, and they believed Jacob would never allow Benjamin to leave home. Verse 21 through 24. Then they said to one another, in truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Then he turned away from them and wept. And he returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. So the brothers realized they are having this mess because of what they had done to Joseph. This is the only confession of guilt in all of Genesis. But there was a lot of guilt in Genesis, but the first time someone confesses. So here is where we get the additional fact that when the brothers threw Joseph in the pit, he begged them for freedom, and they ignored him. The fact that they quickly associated these events with their sin against Joseph means that sin is fresh in their mind. There wasn't a completely logical connection between the current situation and the previous situation of Joseph, but a guilty conscience sees trouble as sin's penalty. The United States government has something called the Federal Conscience Fund, which collects money people send in because they know they cheated the government in some way. People have sent in money because they took army blankets for souvenirs, for cheating on postage, or on income tax. But our consciences are notoriously weak and corrupt. One man wrote the IRS and said, I cheated on my taxes and I can't sleep at night. Here's a check for $100. If I still can't sleep, I'll send the rest I owe. Shallow conscience. Joseph's listening, but they don't realize he understands everything because there's an interpreter there saying, this is the first time that Joseph hears that Reuben tried to save him. That must really change his opinion of Reuben. And Reuben has a really good I told you so in here. So Joseph is overcome with emotion. God had so much work to do in these brothers before they could be reconciled. It's not going to be quick and easy. They can't just say, sorry, bro, and go on. God is guiding these events so the brothers see their sin and repent completely before Joseph is revealed and they have their relationship back. So we don't get why Simeon was chosen as a hostage. He wasn't mentioned as having a prominent role in selling of Joseph. Maybe he volunteered. We don't know, but do you think Simeon was kept in a prison as a prisoner or as a prisoner in Joseph's home? We're not told. Verse 25 and 26, and Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain and to replace every man's money in his sack and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them. Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. Did God guide Joseph to do this? Was he working his plan through Joseph to bring true repentance and reconciliation with the brothers? That grain had to be expensive, but Joseph put all the money back in the sacks without letting him know. He wasn't going to charge his dad anything. What a blessing for them, though. The bags of grain and the sacks were two different things. The sacks would have been like a suitcase for them. He not only gave them the money back, but he provided what they would need for the journey, all the food they would need. Honoring your father is such an important thing. That's going to be one of the commandments when we get to it. So Joseph, again, would never take money from his father. And that money that his brothers brought belonged to their father. Joseph would gladly take money from them. But he couldn't refuse it without giving a reason. So he hid the money so that it would be discovered later. The provisions he gave openly and immediately, and they're probably wondering what is going on with this guy. Joseph does this before they're reconciled, even though they hadn't asked for forgiveness yet. Joseph loved and cared for them. Another picture of Jesus. Some of Jesus's blessings are obvious and upfront, and some are hidden to be discovered later. But he gives them to us before we were reconciled to him. Verse 27 and 28. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of the sack." At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" Yeah, shock. We don't know which brother found the money first, but it wasn't what they expected to see. And they look at it in the wrong way. So what do you do when you discover a mistake was made in your favor? Like when you're not charged for something that you should have been charged for, you're given too much back in change. If you're like Joseph, you would return it. So this was a test, not from Joseph, but from God. What would they do with the money? If they were deceptive, they would hide it. If they were lying, they would make up a story about it. If they were proud, they would think, we deserved it. If they were superficial, they would think nothing of it. It's like they just won the lottery, but they're not happy about it. They are scared to death. And this is the reaction of just finding one of the hidden stashes of money. There's 8 more. Imagine their reaction when they find it all. Well, we don't know why they didn't immediately check everybody else's, but they didn't. Now, they'd already been suspected as spies. Now they're thinking, oh gosh, add thievery to that. And they were already a distance away. They had traveled a full day. They were afraid because of their guilty consciences. So guilty that they thought this was a punishment from God. Verse 29 through 34. When they came to Jacob, their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, the man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land. But we said to him, we are honest men. We have never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine of your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. And I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. It wasn't a short trip back to Papa. Imagine what's going on in their heads the whole time. When they get back, what a surprise. They tell Dad the truth. The last time they came back with a missing brother, they lied and they made up a story about Joseph. They've made a small step in the right direction. Small, but good. Notice they don't mention Simeon as a prisoner hostage. They say, leave one of your brothers. In fact, they leave off a lot of details. Their imprisonment, the money in their sacks, the death threat if they don't return. Verse 35, as they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. So now they discover all the money. Why didn't these dodos check when they first found the first one? They are shocked and afraid. What do you think they're afraid of? Verse 36, and Jacob, their father, said to them, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me. Oh, woe is me. Jacob blames them for losing 2 sons. Joseph had been lost at least 13 years earlier, probably longer. That's a long time to hold a grudge. He thought Joseph was dead because that's what they led him to believe. This shows the power of lies. When we believe lies, whether it's our fault or not, the lie has power over us. That's why we need to learn and love and cherish God's truth. Here's some lies that we tend to tell ourselves. God doesn't care about me. I'm beyond hope. I'm not good enough. I'm a good person. I'm better than that person over there. I'm worthless. Those are all lies. Jacob says he lost 2 of my sons. What makes you think I would ever take Benjamin with you? Notice he seems to think Simeon is dead. Isn't it ironic that the thing Jacob is afraid of is the least of his fears? He is afraid of losing Benjamin. Yet every day he delays, it takes him closer to losing the entire family to famine. He'll let them all starve. All this has come against me. This summarizes Jacob's outlook on life. Poor Jacob. He's living on the negative side, but he's got to remember, he was God's chosen. He was healthy, he was wealthy, but everything's against them. Do you know people like that? That there's so many blessings in their life, but they have blinders on to the one situation. Even though Jacob's feeling this, God's plan is happening. The plan is not only great for Jacob and the family, but it is going to impact all history. If Joseph's family hadn't been so messed up and weird, his brothers would never have sold Joseph as a slave. If Joseph wasn't a slave, he wouldn't have gone to Egypt. If he didn't go to Egypt, he wouldn't have been sold to Potiphar. If Joseph's family back in Canaan died in the famine, then the Messiah couldn't have come from a dead family. Jacob's attitude is the opposite of Joseph's. We don't get a feeling that Joseph's ever said, "Poor me." So many Christians live a life that says, "All this has come against me." Instead, we should be thinking Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. And we are called according to his purpose. Verse 37, then Reuben said to his father, "Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you." So Reuben, the firstborn, steps up, the one who disgraced his family with incest, the one who did too little, too late to rescue Joseph before he was sold as a slave. How dramatic. Reuben is willing to lay down his own sons to give Jacob hope in his despair. This is a dramatic gesture. God did, in fact, did this. God gave his only son to deliver us and to rescue us in our despair and to give us a living hope. Verse 38, but he said, "My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol." Not only did Jacob say, "No way, Jose," but he says, he's talking like this is his only son. If you were the brothers, how would that make you feel? That jealousy got them in trouble before, but they seemed to rein in the jealousy this time. At this point, Jacob couldn't bear to trust God again. He had lived protecting himself from pain. That's not living at all. But God is going to give him news that is going to help him live and hope again. So he says, if he loses Benjamin, his sorrow will take him to Sheol. Sheol is the Old Testament term for place of the dead. In the Old Testament, they kind of have a mixed up understanding of the afterlife. They did believe in an afterlife, but they weren't sure about heaven and hell. Okay, so that's where we're going to leave this dramatic story. Next chapter, we'll look at how this progresses. Thank you, as always, for joining. Remember to click like and subscribe. Thank you again.